Malaysia, a country with her foundations built on the unity of diverse cultures, is a nation that has battled all odds to be where she is standing today. Recently, experiencing a political breakthrough, Malaysia had the first ever change of government since her independence. With our country entering a new dawn, our young people, the future of Malaysia, have their own set of unique problems and healthcare needs. One of the mounting crises is their struggle in the area of mental health. The National Health and Morbidity Survey 2017 revealed that 1 of 5 adolescents feel depressed and 1 of 10 is stressed. It is a cause for concern. We want you to know, what does the Malaysian public think about the state of mental health in our country?
To be honest, I don't know anything about mental health awareness, so yeah.
Terrible. Most of my friends are so scared to talk to their parents about it because they feel like they're going to be judged and especially judged by society, because the parents care about that a lot. The parents care about what others will think.
I've grown up with the idea that it didn't exist as much, because when I struggled with it to this day, to be very honest, and it's very hard for families to understand and relate to that, because during their time it was not a thing that they cared about.
Mental health is a really important thing for a person compared to anything else, because that is what keeps you sane.
I think in Malaysia it's still a taboo topic. Whenever someone has a mental health issue, people don't take it as an actual problem.
Not many people actually take it seriously.
I feel like mental health awareness in Malaysia, it doesn't have that much awareness, so to say. No one is actually reaching out, or they don't actually know how to reach out.
There's not a lot of people that's actually aware around it. Like, they know that it's there, but they don't actually pay attention to it.
People talk about it a lot in universities and academic settings, but outside of academic settings like university, I go out, no one seems to be talking about it. The only people who are talking about it are people who actually experience it themselves.
Being aware is one thing, but also not understanding is another thing. So even when my parents were aware of it, of me going through all these things, they didn't know how to handle it. So I think in Malaysia, it's not just a problem of not knowing, but it's also a problem of not understanding and not knowing what to do with it.
Most people who go to see a doctor for cold or for a headache, people don't judge them for getting treatment for that. Why people go to the clinic and say that I have depression or I have a mental disorder, people automatically somehow have a prejudice against them.
Stigma.
There's a stigma, exactly. So we want to remove that. And even in my community and even in my constituency, I've noticed that this conversation is not heavily promoted and encouraged, because I think it's a Malaysian mindset. When we talk about mental health, I think the first word that comes in the mind is gila, cheesing, right. Crazy. So, but this is not always the case. Sure. So we want to make sure that this conversation actually is properly done.
There's always just a breaking point, I would say. So a lot of things fell apart at the same time, or concurrently.
There's too much at one go.
Yeah, or it just happened like a train, it's like a train wreck.
One thing after the other.
Yeah, so it's just so overwhelming. So it's like, there's exams, and then your family broke down. A lot of family problems actually contribute to that as well, and also I think loneliness. A lot of our callers, they call in because they're lonely. Yeah, so you might have the stereotype like, lonely is like, lonely old man, or people who got no friends. It's not true. Like, these people, they have friends or they have loved ones, but it's just that they could not connect to them. A lot of bullying, I think I talk about this topic quite a fair bit also, youths these days, they don't just get bullied physically, but it takes online as well,
Right.
and then it follows them. So it's like a never-ending cycle of bullying.
One of the major myths about suicide is that people who are feeling suicidal would just go ahead and do it. They would not give out any warning signs, which is not true, because according to studies, they found that people who have died by suicide or who have attempted suicide, up to 80% of them actually gave out warning signs. So imagine if we know what are the warning signs, there are a lot of suicides that we can actually prevent.
There are studies where they've assessed there's something called social support network and social support satisfaction. Social support network means the number of friends I have. Number of friends. Maybe I've got 100 friends, 200 friends, whatever. That's your network. Social support satisfaction is how satisfied are you from the support that you're getting from these people. And I think this is very telling. Because there are people who might, that's why my God, he was very happy, he had so many friends, such a good time, and yet he did this. That's because the network was huge, but probably the satisfaction from there. And this social support satisfaction is a known predictor for depression.
So it's a quantity, quality kind of a...
Yeah, you could say that. That's right. Quantity, quality sort of thing. Yes, exactly. I might have 2 friends, but I'm satisfied with the social support that I get from them. I'm happy, I'm protected. I might have 100 friends, but I don't feel that support. Tomorrow when I need help, I don't get it from the relevant people. That is dangerous.
serta berdasarkan kepada kebebasan. Merdeka! Merdeka!
Seksyen 309 Kanun Keseksaan adalah membunuh diri. Membunuh diri merupakan satu kesalahan, kesalahan jenayah. So seksyen peruntukan seksyen 309 ini adalah bertujuan untuk mencegah sebenarnya, untuk mencegah dan menghalang perbuatan cuba bunuh diri daripada terus berlaku.
Right.
Ya.
So that's the rationale behind 309.
Jadi apabila masyarakat ataupun seseorang individu itu, bila dia mengetahui bahawa perbuatan itu adalah salah di sisi undang-undang, ini akan menghalang dia daripada melakukannya.
Home rule for Malaya is discussed in London between Federation leaders and the British government.
It has roots from its British roots. So we adopted the law when we were once British colonials, and the thinking behind it was predominantly religious, in the Christian and even Islamic teaching as well, that only God can take away life. Yeah. So as a result, anyone else, including yourself, if you decide to exercise that right or that power, you are in violation of God's authority.
So actually one of the two, in my view, the low-lying fruits that we are addressing, and which was already adopted by the cabinet, which they are studying further. Number one is to decriminalize attempted suicide. I think it's something that's very close to our heart, because when those who want to commit suicide, they need help. They shouldn't be thrown in jail. In the current system, if a person attempted suicide and he survived, he will have to go through the due process. I mean, they will have to put him in psych evaluation, put him in a mental hospital. Investigation. So this whole process sometimes take up to 1, 2, or even 3 months, or even longer, because of the backlog in the hospital. So imagine in his mental state, he's already in a tough situation. He's already depressed to a certain extent, and yet he has this right at the back of his mind that he could be jailed. And then he's been put in a mental institution, and if you see some mental institution, it's depressing as it is. And then with all that stress, that will actually probably push him even more.
Just aggravate
to the age. And with 309, the danger is it will make people make sure they get their job done, in the sense that if I want to commit suicide, if I don't want to go to jail, I make sure I really die and die for real. And that's not what we want to encourage.
At the moment, if you make an attempt to commit suicide, of course, if you're not successful, then the law will punish you. We want to see that this issue needs to be looked at from the health perspective. And people who are ill, who need help, and they need to talk to somebody, they cannot be punished for not being well.
Of course.
And therefore, decriminalizing it is a very good step. And so we have requested for Home Ministry to study the implication of us pursuing it. And also, I think they will be reverting soon on this.
In a way, I feel that as community leaders, it is okay to show vulnerability, and we shouldn't be afraid to do that, because that would, in a way, also give permission to people that we are leading to also express the same way. So there is no problem in saying that I am seeking counselling. In fact, in my line of work, to be very honest with you, after I took on this job, and I actually still am seeking counselling, because I somehow feel like as human beings, we are not meant to live on our own island. We are supposed to live in a community. We are supposed to tap into wisdom and experiences of our elders, and seek help from them as well.
The other thing we focus a lot in our ministry is the positive impact of counselling. So when we were all in school, we used to be told that if you don't behave, if you misbehave, you'll be sent for counselling. So counselling has always been looked at as a negative thing, as a punishment in school for problematic children. And now we want to turn that around. Counselling must be seen as a positive thing. So our ministry is looking into recruiting more lay counsellors, giving them training, and also strengthening and increasing the capacity of our current batch of counsellors. So we have counsellors in hospital, counsellors in schools, counsellors that are part with the social welfare department. We really want to look into all the gaps that are present in the system today and to close those gaps. So for example, every person who has been reported to have been abused by somebody we need to insist that they must go through counselling. And at the moment, there are some weaknesses in the system, and unless it's ordered by the court, they will slip through that system. So we want to ensure that people who have suffered or survivors need to be restored fully. Otherwise, the mental health of these people will be affected, and suicide is usually seen as one of the options that they will pursue. That's right. That's right. From what I see, we are still at the point of creating awareness, encouraging people who are depressed, who are lonely, who feel that they really cannot go on. They need to be able to speak to somebody without being labeled, without being judged, or without being punished. And so that stigma is still very real in our community because of years of us just growing up hearing things like hospital bahagia. These are terms that we use, and then we feel like, oh, we should never go there. And so a lot of families, even though they have members who are suffering, people don't come out because of that fear of being labeled. And of course, some people then take the shortcut of
Like you said, it's important that we all talk to each other. Because whether you are an NGO or a healthcare provider, elected rep, you're in the ministry, when you work in silo, you won't be able to solve a problem like this. Also because each of us have different expertise. So that is why we need to join our forces together in order to, pick on each other's brains, our individual experience, to see how we can each all contribute to overcoming these issues. I would like to see more elected representatives come on board, actually. A lot of them feel like it's a problem that is not quite apparent in their constituency yet. But the message that I want to send across is this. Yes, why is it that in Subang Jaya we have, they say, it's a problem in Petaling Jaya and Subang Jaya, in KL, that kind of thing. Only in the cities do you have this kind of problems. People in villages, they don't have this problem. I beg to differ, actually, because when we meet the families of those who suffer from mental health problems, or have attempted suicide, or have committed suicide, we realize that they are actually from other constituencies. It's just that it materialized in Subang Jaya. So if we actually look at it further, it is a problem that is apparent across the board. It is not just unique to cities. So, which is why we want to call upon more elected representatives to come on board, because it can affect anyone. The statistics is clear. 3 in 10 have mental health problems. So we are not excluded just because you live in a different area. We are talking about people who are suffering, who can be helped. And that is the sad part. They can be helped, but there are not enough people coming around them or pushing policies to say, we want to create that ecosystem for them. What really impacted me, which I carry till today, was I attended a funeral of someone, the child committed suicide, and it was my first time dealing with such a situation. I went to the funeral hall, I sat down with the parents, and I was just at a loss about what to say. And so I asked them, how are you? And they said, Michelle, I wish I knew what to do. I wish I could do more. I told the parents, I said that, look, where you are now, you have already done everything that you knew for your child. So you shouldn't penalize yourself for not knowing more. Sure. Because based on what you already know, you did your best for your child. All right? And then when I went home thinking about it, I felt like we need to do more for these families. They are struggling, they are leading lives that are probably different from us, because they might have a child, a family member, a loved one who is suffering, and we should do more as a community to come around them and say, look, we are in this together, all right, it's a collective effort, and we want to see you through. So which is why I'm inspired and I've been pushing for this, because I know at the end of it, there are people out there that really needs help. Yeah.
In my view, we cannot just think that this responsibility belongs to the healthcare professionals, but we all have a collective responsibility to help promote not just the conversation, but to help people build what I call mental resilience. So in my capacity as a member of parliament, I want to see different people, including yourself. How can we come together, share our talents, share our skills and creativity to reach out to different segments, not just the poor, not just the rich, but even the young people.
I went through a very brief season of experiencing depression, and of course, experts will tell you that if you feel down for a continuous period of 2 weeks, it's very likely that you have depression. And so for me, it helped me a lot to come out of that season just by having a close friend or a close relative that I can confide in and just talk and just spend time together to know that I'm not alone. You definitely need to speak to somebody, a close friend that you trust, and to be able to see perspective from the other side, and to know also that you can actually you can actually feel better. Yeah, I really believe that every person, the fact that you are on earth, you are loved, you have a purpose, and talk to somebody. it's a season. My encouragement is that you can actually get out of it. Yeah.
You are loved. That's the message that YB Hannah Yeoh and many others are trying to send out to the struggling youths of this nation. The situation that each youth faces might seem bleak in their own lens, but there is hope. In this series, we don't want to just highlight the problem, but progress, to discover how everyone can play a part in this life-saving project. As we journey on in Breathe, we want to give people a vital breath of air. If you are hurting or going through a difficult time, please do speak to someone about it. You don't have to go through this alone, and you're not alone. Call any of the helplines shown on the screen and reach out. Do stay tuned for more episodes as we pursue the development of different efforts to help those in crisis. Once again, this is Breathe, and if you are following us, let's make the difference together.